I'm Gaetano Calabro. I'm the owner of Gamers Paradise. We currently have 2 locations, one in Rochelle Park and one in River Rail, New Jersey. We opened our Rochelle Park store in 2010 and our River Rail store in 2016. We currently are a video game store and video game lounge. So we offer everything from new games, used games, we do trade-ins, and our video game lounge has tournaments. We do parties, birthday parties, and other events, as well as you can come in and play by the hour.
Gamers Paradise is one of the many small businesses being impacted across the United States by COVID-19 and the measures put in place to help contain the virus.
The last 8 months have been difficult, starting in March, where we were shut down for about 3 months. We were able to reopen June 15th at a limited capacity. And from there, it's been difficult. We've seen some improvements week to week, but it's still been very difficult.
Business owners like Calabro have been struggling to keep their stores open during the pandemic. Retail and shopping has been the second hardest hit due to COVID-19 restrictions behind restaurants. Measures were put in place like the Paycheck Protection Program to help keep businesses afloat.
Well, the PPP program was authorized by Congress. It's in legislation that was passed earlier in the year. And the goal was essentially to give loans to small businesses so that they could keep their employees on staff and that they would not have to lay them off. And the idea is that if the small businesses could keep these people on payroll, that eventually those loans would be forgiven. And so, it was an important program. I think the execution of it was problematic. It probably didn't go to all of the small businesses that truly deserved it. There's also some questions about some of the types of businesses that got the loans that probably shouldn't have.
Calabro agrees that the execution of the PPP loans could have been better.
I think they could have definitely put more restrictions in, which would have made it harder for some businesses, but I think some of the larger businesses shouldn't have been receiving the government funds, because it did take from the small businesses overall. So that's, I think, one of the things they could have done better.
While the PPP loans helped small businesses short term, Lou feels it wasn't enough, and getting the pandemic under control is the only way that these businesses will be able to get back to normal.
These businesses operate on really slim profit margins. And you can provide this lifeline, which is what this program was, but it just wasn't enough if otherwise people aren't, dining out, if people aren't bringing their clothes to their dry cleaner, because ultimately, they need customers. And if people aren't going in there, no amount of government assistance is going to help them. So unless you get your arms around this pandemic and get it resolved, the economy is always going to be kind of operating in fits and starts or at half speed.
With restrictions on capacity levels at stores and people being afraid to occupy public spaces, Gamers Paradise has been hit particularly hard because they rely on being able to hold tournaments and throw birthday parties.
It's definitely difficult and stressful being in this time. I've never had to deal with anything like this. This is our business is where people gather, so it is greatly affected by this. We had about 40 to 50 parties booked, and we had to basically give refunds. Some were moved, but in the majority, I would say 90%, had to be canceled or refunded. It affects our business greatly. It is one of the larger portions of our business, and it's something that hopefully we can get back to normal once everything gets back to normal.
Calabro is hopeful that things will return back to normal, but with COVID-19 cases spiking across the country, fears of a second shutdown and if small businesses can survive are looming.
I think it's going to be very difficult for a lot of small businesses, going forward. The longer this lasts, it becomes extremely harder to survive in this environment. Just with the less foot traffic that we're receiving, it is going to become difficult the longer it lasts. The PPP for most businesses will run out in November, December. So, from there, we're probably going to need additional help if things don't change.
Lou says there are a couple of things that could ensure businesses' survival.
So obviously getting the pandemic under control is the most important thing. I think the development and distribution of a vaccine is probably the most promising thing. But I do think there needs to be continued economic assistance. And it's not just the small businesses, it's all businesses. Anything that relies on travel and tourism and food and drink establishments, those are all really going to struggle over the next couple of months. And so we do need to come together. Congress, the president, both the current one and the new one, need to figure something out, because when these businesses go away, they're not coming back ever.
Despite the hurdles that small businesses need to overcome, Calabro is optimistic that Gamers Paradise will be here when the smoke clears.
It's going to be difficult, but I think we will be able to survive.